Well, HBO, that was a very interesting choice of closing credits music, don't you think? So we are now on Season 3 of Game of Thrones, and we're now on Episode 3, so things are starting to heat up now, everything's starting to really get going in motion except for Robb, who's kind of just sitting there in Riverrun. Speaking of that, the episode starts with Robb and Catelyn and a bunch of other Northmen in Riverrun. They're sending Catelyn's father down the river, and this guy keeps missing his arrow shot to light the boat on fire, and then Catelyn's uncle just eventually takes the bow, shoots it, and then lights the thing on fire, and that was that. Then later on in the episode, she's talking to her uncle about how she wishes that she got back to Winterfell quicker, and that Bran and Rickon are dead now because of her, and blah blah. She's crying and talking about her dad, and I'm sorry, I just don't like her. She's just one of those characters that I'm just probably never gonna like on this show, so I honestly didn't care that much that she was crying, but the scenes with her uncle seems like a cool guy, but other than that, not much happened this week for Robb and them and everyone else. Then you have this short meeting of the small council, which is now closer to Tywin's place, and Tyrion's upset and he drags a chair across the floor because of it. And they talk about Littlefinger going up to the Eyrie and getting Harrenhal and whatnot. So they name Tyrion the new Master of Coin, and later on in the episode you see them exchanging all of Littlefinger's books and shit. And then you get a funny scene where Tyrion gives his squire a bunch of whores, and later on in the episode he comes back with all the money Tyrion gave him to give to them, and they didn't want it apparently, so most of this episode for Tyrion consists of comedic relief, which is usually what his character is, but last season he was more serious to me, and this episode just really centered around comedy for him. And don't get me wrong, it was very funny, but I prefer semi-serious, semi-joking Tyrion to completely joking-ish Tyrion. Then up north we have the Wildlings, and Mance tells like 20 of them to go to the wall and start attacking, and they bring Jon Snow with them. And that's, again, they're not really doing much yet this season. Like, they have one scene per episode, and that's that. Once again, I'm very interested to see where this goes, because not many Night's Watchmen are at the wall yet, so I really want to see how that plays out. And speaking of the Night's Watch, they get back to Craster's Keep, that piece of shit, and Sam sees that girl he liked, Gilly, giving birth, and it was a boy, so you know what's gonna happen there. Craster's gonna give it to the woods, or the White Walkers the woods eat the kids. I don't really like Sam, I haven't really said that yet, but he's very useless. Maybe he'll start actually doing something next episode now that he doesn't want his one true love's baby to die. But I really do want to see where this goes, but I feel like they're just not showing enough of it yet for me to really comment on it. And then we cut back to Theon, and he's about to escape that place. The guy, I don't even know his name, his sister sent him, and he gets him out of there, and then we see Theon riding. He seems like he's really lost and doesn't know where he's going. But eventually those guys that captured him, once again, we don't know who they are or even where they are. They try and catch him, they catch up to him, and they're about to rape him. Yeah, that was pretty creepy, but then one guy gets an arrow through his chest, the rest of them die, and it turns out the guy that helped him escape is now there with him again, and they start riding off to find his sister. I don't like Theon, but I feel bad for him. It's a weird thing for me to feel, because he took over the North and screwed up Robb's plans and shit, but no one really deserves to get nails pushed through their feet and then underneath their nails. Let's see, and there's a scene with Stannis and Melisandre. She's leaving, and he doesn't want her to, and yeah. And then we finally cut back to Daenerys, and we see her, and she's talking to that awful piece of shit bald guy, and she wants to buy the entire army, but the guy says he'll give her like maybe about 200 of them for everything she has, and she says, alright, I'll give you one of my dragons. And then Barristan and Mormont are immediately like, what are you doing? Going into next episode, I'm very interested to see where Daenerys' story goes, because I honestly don't think she's going to give up a dragon to this douchebag. I see it burning him alive, and I'm going to be happy if that happens. And before I get to the last part of the episode I want to talk about, which is Jaime and Brienne like last week, there's a scene with the Brotherhood without banners again, and Arya, and they're at this place. There's this woman that lives there, and Hot Pie makes her bread, and now he's gonna stay there, and then they leave to ride off somewhere else. I don't know, I just felt like that was worth mentioning because it did further that story a bit. Now we don't have a fat kid with them anymore. And next week it seems like something's gonna happen with the Hound, so I want to see how that goes. And the last story of this week is Jamie and Brienne. They were captured at the end of last week, so they're riding on this horse. They're tied back to back. And Jamie Kid just kind of tells him, they're going to rape you, so just don't fight it and it'll be better for you and they won't kill you. There's a lot of rape in this episode. It's really weird. And then later on in the episode, you see them, they're both tied up to the tree, and then they start taking Brienne. She really fights it. She headbutts a guy. You hear her screaming a lot. And then, like, the leader of this group walks over to Jamie and they start talking. And he kind of convinces the guy to get the others to stop raping her because her father would probably pay them to have her back unraped. That's really awful. And Jamie seems like he has outsmarted these people talking about his father and whatnot and getting to be able to actually sleep on his back. Then they take him over somewhere. They put him, like, down on like a piece of wood or something. A guy puts up a dagger to his face and he kind of threatens him saying, oh yeah, your dad's not here, what are you gonna do now? He pulls back and it seems like they're just gonna let him go, and then he just chops off Jamie's right hand. That was a shock moment, and I know a lot of spoilers for this season, unfortunately, so I did kind of see it coming, but still, the way it played out, it was pretty, out of nowhere, in my opinion. I thought they would just kind of hint at it and then maybe do it next week. As if that wasn't shocking enough, you hear Jamie scream, and as soon as it ends, it cuts to this, like, rock music for the end credits. Like, that does not make sense. It's just, I don't know what possessed them to put that in the end credits, but whatever. Yeah, that's kind of Jamie's sword hand, so I don't know what he's gonna be doing now, so I really want to see how that affects him, I guess, next week and in the weeks to come. Overall, this episode of Game of Thrones I think is the best episode of this season so far. It really starts getting things moving in motion, even though Robb is still just kind of sitting there. Jamie lost his hand, the hot pie is gone, Mance is now marching south, and Tyrion's the master of coin. Things have happened in this episode. I really liked it, and honestly I would have given this episode an A+ if it wasn't for the fact that they played that music during the end credits. And I'm gonna give this episode an A because I really loved it. It's really getting into Game of Thrones-y type stuff, as if the other two episodes didn't. Nevertheless, did you enjoy this episode of Game of Thrones? If you did, tell me why you did. If you didn't, or if there was a certain part you didn't like, tell me why you didn't enjoy it. Write beautiful comments down there and tell me what you think. And if you like this video, hit that subscribe button down there, because if you don't, I won't sell you my dragons.